Hey guys, welcome back. And today I got an exciting video about MicroStrategy, IBIT, and a few other tickers that are core in my portfolio. If you haven't seen the full portfolio, I'll link the video up in the right. You can see my full 7-figure portfolio overview. And I've been flip-flopping back and forth about MSTY a lot lately. Um, this video, I kind of wanted to go into some of my research, and once you start building a good portfolio for dividends and stuff, a lot of it is boring, and then the majority of it is just doing research like this. Even just like when you start, just finding out what you want to hold your assets in, what you like. You try not to flip flop too much, but with these new assets like YieldMax and other stuff like that, it's tough because you have these new products, high yields. We were kind of trained in the past to be scared of high yields, and like if it's too good to be true, you know, tread carefully, which I still agree is the case. But I think when you look at the strategy that they're doing, covered calls, selling puts, like this is not something like this is not smoke and mirrors. It's actually happening. You can see it. You know where the yield comes from. If you guys haven't done your research on that, you can look and see where it's from. But I'm going to flip back and forth here. And I know a lot of people focus on total return. So I'm just going to flip to the price change first. So I even released a podcast episode about decay with MSTY and price decay in the stock. And does the yield make it worth it and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And a lot of it also has to do with where you purchase an asset. So, and I think that's true, especially for these assets, is if you just kind of ape in at the top and you don't use any strategy on where your average price is, I think you're gonna have a much harder time. So, an experienced trader that's looking at also, if you're not focused on Bitcoin, then you're gonna have a problem too because MicroStrategy, MSTY, the whole underlying strategy depends on what Bitcoin does. So the first thing you need to do is have laser focus on what Bitcoin is doing, what the cycles are like. Are we oversold? Are we, making new all-time highs? All that stuff matters. Political tensions matter short term, and you also have to be aware of volatility because if you haven't seen Bitcoin in the past 10 years, it has major pullbacks, usually like a 50%. This sounds crazy, but a 50% pullback in Bitcoin's history is not unprecedented. It's kind of normal every few years. Violent pullbacks. We haven't seen that since the ETFs came in, really. We've seen a pretty good pullback, I think 25 to 30%, which might be the new norm, to be honest, because I mean that's a big pullback, and buyers are just hungrier at these levels. But I'm gonna go back more into MSTY. So you can see the share price when we hover over this, right? You can see how when Bitcoin, IBIT is Bitcoin, this orange line pulls back, MSTY pulls back even harder. So it's doing the same thing. At the low here, you can see it's down 41%. Now, this is not including dividends. This is just the straight up ticker change. All right. So this is just the percent change of the underlying the asset's price. So if you put $10,000 in, it made a 41% pullback at the low. Sure, it recovered, but you would have had to, live through the max pain of a 40% pullback, which is actually more than Bitcoin experience there. Let's see if we look up at the top, it was at 64 and it went down to 18. So actually, it's about the same as the Bitcoin pullback. So almost 1 to 1, except for of course the ticker prices are different. And yeah, it doesn't recover the same. These are all things probably a lot of you know, right? You know that because they're selling covered calls, your upside is going to be limited. It doesn't mean you're not going to get upside. in MSTY, but it's going to be limited. So if Bitcoin goes on a major run, you're not going to capture 100% of the upside if it goes through the call price, which is the biggest limitation of using a strategy like this. It's not a weakness, it's just a limitation, right? But all that being said, let's go into total return percent. And this is where, when I actually put it in a chart, I almost should have known better, because when I look at my portfolio, I've only held this for a while. You can see my entry price is 21.88. We're up 18% with dividends. We're down a little bit on the share price. If I pull into this, you can see better. We're down a little bit based off the average cost, right? So it's 20.85 and my average cost is 21.80. But the income that we've got with this, the dividends, it's down here. The incomes have made this profitable. And this is what we see in this chart, right? So 110% total return. And this is just the year. The year to date, 24. But it's outpacing Bitcoin, which when I saw that, I was I was actually truly surprised. So the more I think about it, the more I kind of like MicroStrategy. So you lost 21%, but for the last running year, if you were to gotten in around $20, which is what the price was, $20 a share. Well, let's see exactly. Does it say on here? Let's see. That's not right. Because I think this matters, right? $29. So that was actually a high. So at $29 a share still, which was going to go to my next point. At $29 a share, you still would have made it 80%. I think even more than that, 90%. So, I mean, the yield, I think that's what the yield is claiming on the website. I know it's been from 90 to 100. But okay, that's good. So when you see, you're getting some sink, but if you're still making 80% a year, it makes you you have to start thinking about it seriously. Do we want to see more history? Do I want to see more history? Sure. That's only 1 year. Year to date, 24%. Inception, 184. It looks good. Looks really good because for a year at IBIT, it's only 60%. Now, we don't have enough history for that yet. We do for Bitcoin, and the CAGR for Bitcoin is about 40% right now, 40% a year in growth. So if this is going to be both of them, I'm going to start taking it more seriously. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to ape in, even though MicroStrategy is having a pullback. I might start thinking of adding more as it's below my share price, only if the price goes below my average share price. And I think that's a good rule. I'm not going to drip my dividends because I think you don't want to raise your share price. Is as simple as that with this, especially if you want to use it. But I think it's pretty easy to see these pullbacks. Some of these pullbacks are violent and happen very quickly, which for a strategy like this is really good because you can watch Bitcoin if the market's open in MicroStrategy, or the best thing that can happen is Bitcoin dumps over the weekend, right? So then when the market opens, MicroStrategy is going to gap down like violently and have some really nice volatility at the market open, and maybe even dump more than that if Bitcoin is red the day the market's open. That's the kind of stuff that I would look for below my average share price to add to this. And then I think by doing that and adding just on those moments, because they're going to happen. Bitcoin, the reason the yield is high and the reason Bitcoin has been like this so so long and has good upside is, these moves to the downside are what allows this to happen. Now, could MicroStrategy run out, get in a spot where it runs away from you and it starts going back up to 25, 29, $30 a share? Sure. But what we've seen over the long term, I think, is it's going to have a hard time doing that. I think over time the NAV price of MSTY will be flat, if not negative, and that's okay. Because when you're looking at the yield, as long as the volatility is here in Bitcoin and in MicroStrategy, um, that's fine because you're going to continue to see what's happening, and that's what you want, right? Now, if Bitcoin becomes probably, will this last forever? Probably not, because as these assets mature, like gold, if this is what we want Bitcoin to be, similar to gold or silver, the assets move, but they're not as volatile. You're not going to see as big of moves, and that's when you'll see these IVs start to shrink. Not shrink, but maybe you won't see the stuff that you see in the past year. It might slowly start to, come down and calm down a bit, and then maybe this, the yield you see on this is half. And then when that happens, then this might not make sense anymore. Then it would be like, well, hold Bitcoin. And I think that's something that I'm gonna watch. And right now we have 150 shares of MSTY, and I don't know. Maybe my goal is to get to 500. If there's pullbacks, if there's situations, that would bring me up to 2,500, right? So currently, let's see, we're currently at 150. That's bringing in $2,500 a year. So double that. 300 would be 5,000, and another 150 would be about 7,000. So I think that's a good number to shoot for. And yeah, if you like videos like this where I'm thinking through the process, showing you my research, I have everything else laid out here of my core positions. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let me know what you think. Thanks.